And action. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Action Podcast. And today, in honor of the 40th, I believe, anniversary, maybe 41, but ultimately the movie has been released in IMAX, re-released in IMAX. And so we wanted to revisit this one because it's a classic of all time, but it's E.T., which is directed by Steven Spielberg and written by Melissa Matheson, who also wrote The Black Stallion and Indian in the Cupboard and the BFG. And with me to discuss this great film is my brother Peter, of course, to my left here, top left. And
Hello.
my bottom left, I have Dominique Diaz. And then my bottom right, I have Rose Arias Charur. Did I say it right?
Good.
Nice. It
There you
takes
go.
me 17 podcasts to figure out Rose's last. I got the Arias part. The Arias part's easy, but so yeah, this film obviously I think for at least three of us was a big film for us growing up, because this is literally in the middle of our adolescence as we grew up, and super impacted, I think, our film going experience, because I'll let you guys explain your experiences yourself, but I know for me this was definitely one of the first purely emotional films that left me different once I left the theater and moved back into reality. And I was 2.5 when this movie released, and actually I was talking with my mom today, and she was telling me about the time when we went to the theater to see this when it originally came out. And apparently I was fine. I handled it well, but a good family friend of ours, Brooke and Barry, we saw it with them, and Brooke was just an absolute mess. And so shout out to Brooke. She was just devastating. I actually do remember that. I don't remember like actually seeing the movie. I don't remember much, but I remember Brooke being absolutely devastated. And yeah, so it was a tough film for me. But this was just a long line of films for me, directed by Steven Spielberg, that again just kind of shaped my youth, and then also just my love of film. And it's always been one of my favorite films in terms of like memory wise. I don't watch it a ton because it is super emotional, and so you kind of do have to be in that mood. But regardless of that, it's still filmmaking at its best. And when you're talking about all the different emotions and joy and sadness and elation, it's just such a impactful film when it comes to that. And John Williams' score is which obviously it got nominated and won for, but it's just so good. And it definitely, rewatching this, reminded me how great John Williams is and how he really does impact a film. And I have a couple stories, but we'll get into later. But we'll start with Pete. Pete, why don't you tell us your experiences here with E.T.?
Well, yeah, E.T., I remember seeing it that day with you when you were so little and tiny.
That's right.
And I was one of the ones who was absolutely obliterated at the end of this film, just crying my eyes out. I didn't want E.T. to leave. I was so sad. And I had just witnessed E.T. dying also, which also made me cry like crazy. But, as an adult, rewatching it again, even though I've watched it like once a year, I mean, yeah, forever. You really start to appreciate the fact that the reason why this movie stands the test of time is because of the script and the way that Steven Spielberg tells a story and his utilization of themes. Like the biggest one in this movie is friendship. But not just like two guys who are friends, but like two complete opposites who were both, sort of alien in a way. E.T. obviously, but Elliot was sort of alienated from the friends. Couldn't get involved, wasn't allowed. His mom basically kind of just ignores them, mostly because she's all messed up.
In working, she's also working single mom. I mean, you can't.
Well, sure, of course, but to completely ignore your children when they're telling you there's an alien in the house, or I want you to meet this alien, and they were both abandoned you know, E.T. abandoned by his family, and Elliot's dad just kind of bolted. But there was just so
For
many
Sally.
different
For Sally in
sort of
Mexico.
meh.
Yeah. He doesn't even like Mexico.
He doesn't even like Mexico.
And then and then Michael gets, why can't you just do something for, think of other people for a change?
Yeah.
Poor middle
I just
child.
love the themes. I love the themes. I love the story, the acting. There's not a ton I would change about this film. It's just a classic movie. It's one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominique, why don't you share your experiences?
So just like you, it's my earliest movie memory. It's what made me fall in love with film. I remember going to see it at the Big Sky, which was an old drive-in over where our Target is on the border of Monrovia and Duarte. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yep, it's called the Big Sky, and I went with my dad. And for me, it's a really poignant moment in my life because we had an old Volvo. It was my dad and my beloved chocolate lab sitting in between us, watching that in the drive-in. And just like you, all the feels. And soon after, my dad was gone. And so it, like I said, it made me fall in love with movies. And the soundtrack or the score from John Williams, it's my favorite score from John Williams. I went to see him last summer at the Hollywood Bowl, and when it came, I mean, the tears were just streaming down my face. It was just so epic. But yeah, like I said, it's my earliest film memory. It's my best film memory, and it made me fall in love with movies.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Rose, now, so before I start with Rose, need to ask this first question. Have you seen this movie before? Obviously, you are a different age than us, age group. But was this the first time you've seen it, or have you already seen it before?
Oh no, I have already seen it. It was part of my childhood also because my mom loved it, so I watched it when I was a kid. But when I was a kid, like I barely have memories of myself, so I don't remember actually watching the movie itself and being like, "Wow, I love it." I do remember E.T. Come Home and etc. and more of it in Spanish because I watched it in Spanish. But now that I watch it, man, I can't stop crying. Like there's such a metaphor inside of the movie.
Yeah.
Because the metaphor there, and me as Christian and believing in you have to die to yourself to live again.
Yeah.
And literally that's what happens. So there's a need of death to come back to life and understand how important it is. So the moment the ET dies, like it is that part, like realizing, okay, you are part of this world. You just have to make it your own.
Yeah.
And it's coming back to life. So I love the metaphor and how the story is those kinds of stories that there's a story. Nowadays, movies, they're just made because they're made. There's no story there. Here, like you can see that there's real story and they take you in. Like it's so compelling. And the kid, bro, no, that kid.
Yeah.
Wow. No,
Yeah, he was on my list of best child actors. Pete put Drew Barrymore, which no argument there. I mean, they both. Yeah. I was just watching Harry Potter last night, and watching the Harry Potter kids act compared to E.T., it's night and day in terms of how these kids are emoting and how they're how they're even interacting with other people, and even in Alien, it's night and day on how incredible job these kids did as actors. I mean,
also as well in Stranger Things. That's why I think I love it, because also as child actors, my God, and it's so similar this movie to.
They borrowed so much from this movie.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why I love Stranger Things so much, because this movie and among other favorite 80s movies were totally borrowed from and referenced.
Oh yeah.
And we know Rose loves her Stranger Things.
Oh,
me too.
Loves her Stranger Things.
I gotta watch season 4. Yeah. I gotta watch season 4.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So you made a good
Oh
point.
yeah.
You made a good point earlier, Rose, and you talked about like the you know, they don't really make movies like this. And I think, you know, again, doing the research of this, Steven Spielberg wrote this movie while making Raiders Lost Ark. And what inspired him to write this movie was, you know, he had already done Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So he's already interested in this subject matter. So you're dealing with a passion project. But then, you know, his mind started percolating, and it was like, well, what would happen after that? So, you know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind was that initial movie, but what would happen if the alien was stuck on Earth? And so that's where this movie kind of, you know, blossomed from. And again, he's writing it while, and this is one of the actual films he actually like wrote. Now he's not a screenwriter, but he writes, like, he hired Melissa Matheson to transcribe it basically while he was in between scenes on Raiders Lost Ark. And so this is definitely a pure passion project when it comes to Steven Spielberg, and it shows, and all the different emotions that Steven Spielberg went through as a child. I mean, he was a split parented home, and you know, that's a lot of the basis for obviously Elliot and Drew Barrymore and the kids. And so, you know, they're going through a lot of what Steven Spielberg went through as a kid. And so you definitely feel that. I mean, I obviously rewatching this, I felt that dinner scene way more than I ever have. And just hearing kind of Elliot just kind of dig into his mom, and the mom just breaking down and crying. I mean, I don't necessarily remember that, you know, 10, 20 years ago, but I definitely felt it more this time around, where it's like, man, you know, kids can be brutal, you know, and they don't understand that parents have feelings too. And what she was going through with that. And, you know, she broke down, and, you know, we were joking about it a second ago, but, you know, he doesn't even like Mexico, but she's full on sobbing, you know. And I also love that shot, by the way, where she's kind of like in the shadows, and she like walks in the light, and then you just see her face and tears. I mean, again, great Steven Spielberg blocking and you know, setting up the shot there. But yeah, and then just last thing I'll say on this topic, and Pete, you know, you can corroborate this, but you know, one of my earliest Christmas memories is wanting the, you know, ET stuffed animal, and it was all I could. Yeah, mine was the original one though. Like, mine was the original one. Yeah, yours got weird eyes though. I don't know what happened with your eyes there. But
Yeah,
it was the only thing I wanted, and that makes sense since I was 2.5 years old, or almost 3 years old at the time when Christmas came around. But I just remember only wanted it, and my parents did the classic, like, it's not the first gift you're going to open, so it's like I had to wait for it, and all I wanted was it. And I think I went through, Pete, and again, if I'm off base, let me know. But I remember going through like every present, and I didn't get the ET yet. And
that's not quite accurate.
That's not quite accurate?
No, because they put it in a white trash bag.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And
so
they
all
said,
the other gifts,
you want to open this? And Paul's like, I don't want to open that. It's a trash bag. I don't want to open that. That's going to be the dumbest present ever. And then it was the last thing that he opened, and of course, he was elated. It was like his best gift of the year.
Yeah. So my parents did the classic don't judge a book by its cover method to a 3-year-old, and so, you know, I was devastated up until the point where, like, no, just open this one. But I think I was already crying, wasn't I, Pete? Wasn't I like already like emotional?
You were mad that you weren't getting it, and you were mad that there was a trash bag. And then
like, why would you?
But then you became.
Why would Santa give me a gift in a trash bag? It made me feel like I was bad, you know. And then I was so happy, and I remember like hugging it for like all day. Like, it was, again, I can definitely, you know, relate to.
We were going through a recession back then, so maybe.
It was the only toy I had. I remember I had the same little doll, and I was like, I mean, that was my most prized possession, because I really didn't have any other toys, and that was like,
because it wasn't cheap. I don't think. I mean, it was like $40. I think.
Yeah, I mean, and for back then, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's like $6,000 today with inflation. Awesome. Anybody else have any anecdote to add?
No.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to give the point. These are all great stories. I'm going to give the point. I Background, I'm going to give to Rose on the background. That's a nice, obviously, just good commercial there. And then explanation, I'm gonna give to Dominique. Pete was right there, and honestly, I could give you a tie on that one, but we don't give ties here. There's no participation awards.
I know where this is going.
No.
Every time.
Every single time.
No, actually, you know what, Pete? I've been watching the last few, and you actually always get a big lead, and then it just kind of you just got to finish strong, but you got to learn how to close. That's
yeah. No, we need a better judge.
Well, can't argue that. All right, so Dominique won and Rose won. Okay, we'll cut into a little bit of information here. Budget and box office. So this movie was only made for $10.5 million, and
crazy.
That's not a crazy amount for that, even that time period. But it ended up grossing over $436 million domestically and $792 million worldwide. And I'm not sure if that includes re-releases. Obviously, it's definitely not including this new re-release, which is IMAX, which is $20 per shot. So this was the highest grossing movie of all time worldwide until Spielberg's Jurassic Park in 1993. And it adjusted for inflation day, it's still the fourth highest grossing movie of all time.
Wow.
So again, that's a big deal, I think, especially when you do the inflation, because I believe like Wizard of Oz numbers are off the charts. And I don't know if this was the one, but this was in movies for like a year. If I read correctly, I thought I put it on my notes, but I thought I read it about this movie.
Well, that just speaks to the heart of this movie. I mean, it just impacted so many people. I mean,
sure. All ages,
multiple times. So there were 1 billion people in the world. They all saw it twice. You know what I mean? It's like, what a great movie.
And it holds up too. Like when I saw it in theaters last week on Thursday, everybody clapped at the end, and you can hear the sniffles. I mean, again, when you're talking, yes, do the VFX hold up on this? Absolutely not. They're terrible. But
sure.
but it doesn't matter because the story is so good, and the emotion is so raw and real in this. And I have more points on what some of the directorial tidbits that Steven Spielberg did to really bring the best out of these children actors. And
when I rewatched it last night, I was massively emotional.
Yeah,
and I was
skip through it.
I was literally on the verge of tears.
Yeah, I had to skip through it. I was like, I can't do this right now. I already know. I just can't. And then I had asked my little boy to watch it with me. He's 7, and he was like, "But mommy, I'm gonna cry. I don't want to watch it because I already know I'm gonna cry." Like, yeah,
this is why I haven't watched it like a million times. I don't want to cry every single time. It's so emotional.
Yeah, I can't. I had to fast forward. And he didn't even
want to confirm or deny if I had tears or not leaving the theater, but it was definitely an emotional experience. So on the review aspect for this film, this has a 91 on Metacritic, which anything over 90 is insane. 7.9 on IMDb, which that's
seems low.
Seems a little low, but it's not, because there's going to be 1 or 2 people that watch it today and be like, this movie sucks, so it's still not a bad number. I believe it's 100
idiots.
I believe it's 100th, like the 100th highest ranking on IMDb. It was voted the 20th greatest film all time by Entertainment Weekly. The film is ranked number 6 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Cheers, and as the number 3 on AFI's top 10 science fiction films. And in 2007, AFI ranked this, American Film Institute, for those that don't know what AFI is, ranked this as the number 24 greatest movie of all time. So my first question for you guys, this is not a point, but plus or minus on number 24. Do you guys think that's right on? Do you think you don't have to be exact on it. Obviously, we haven't done the full exercise, but do you think that's a good place for this film in history? Do you think it's high, should be higher, lower? Where do you guys, P, I'll start with you.
But I mean, there's so many classic films, especially from like the old days, that people are not going to let go of. Mm-hmm. Almost like baseball history. It's like people only think about Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron.
I mean, Citizen Kane's number 1, you know what I mean?
They don't care about the new people who are incredibly amazing. But this movie, I don't know. I think that's low. I think it should be higher, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of great old films, but they don't have this story and theme infused movie, and the acting is just incredible, and it's kids, and the score, please get out of here. This is top 10, maybe top 5.
It's hard to argue on the top 10 part, because like you're saying, how many films do you keep watching over and over again that you can watch over and over again? And then, like, I watched it Thursday, I watched it again today just to be sharp, and
cried both days.
Yeah, it was still emotional today. You know what I mean? It's like, man, like, what movie can really do that, where you're emotional a week later, and it's 40 years later when it first came out? Like Citizen Kane, I've seen Citizen Kane. It's a great film. Don't get me wrong. And technically it's an amazing achievement. But guess what? Me and the boys aren't getting together next weekend and watching Citizen Kane. You know what I mean? I'm not date night. It's not going to be Citizen Kane movie. You know what I mean?
I'm not still trying to figure out who Rosebud is. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dominique, what do you think? Plus or minus on the number 10?
I'm gonna agree with Pete on that. I feel like that's kind of low, and I totally agree with your points about, you know, the old classic movies that people are just like a dog with a bone and will not let go. And you know, they do these lists, and I always wonder, like, okay, what years are we doing this up until 2000? You know, are we going past that? Because so many great films have been made between, you know, obviously back in the day and now, but E.T., man, that staying power, I think it speaks volumes, and I really feel like, did you say 24? That's pretty low in my opinion. I feel like at least in the top 20.
Yeah, for sure. Rose, what about you? I think you are going to give us a different insight whether it should be 24 or over.
Yeah. Actually, my insight is, like, when people do this kind of lists, like, it has to be like, if we do it overall, it's not fair, because there's so much layers to the film industry and etc., etc. So this movie, of course, it has a lot, and it's so complete that it's one of the greatest. But there's so much out there that's why I wouldn't put it on a list. And it's so subjective also, because the human experience is so different.
Yeah, 100%.
To how it hit your heart. Of course, this one, if it doesn't touch you, well, you're not human. But that's why I think sometimes it's hard to put them on a list.
Yeah.
Me personally, I go, like, I think it's one more than 20,
higher
before, like, higher a little bit. But it's difficult. Like,
I'm sorry, lower. You mean lower? Like it's.
Oh yeah. So at least in the top 20, like Dominic said, like I agree. Like 24, it has to be like.
No, it's a good point.
And it's true, you know. It's like when, you know, I listen to a lot of sports radio, and my family hates it because it's boring to them. But you know, whenever people start talking about comparing Jerry West with Magic Johnson, they're like, well, you can't really do it because of the time differences, like in the time periods and the style of the basketball, the rules that were going on at the time. Like, there's so many different things that you could do back then that you can't do now. So how can you really compare? I get that. I just personally think that this film is almost flawless.
Yeah,
it's almost a flawlessly told story.
Yep.
And that's really what it is. At the heart of it, it's just an amazing story. And there's not a lot of films that tell a story in this way. And they're not releasing all those old classic films 40 years later and having people going crazy about it. Okay, that's a testament to
the
power of this movie.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the other reviews, Roger Ebert, he actually had it as 100.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
Wow, good old Roger.
Roger said, rest his soul. Now, this was the re-release. I don't think anybody actually reviewed it when it first came out, I think, but his review was on the re-release in like 2002. But it said, E.T. is a reminder of what movies are for. Most movies are not for one thing, of course. Some are to make us think, some to make us feel, and some to take away from our problems, some to help us examine them. What is enchanting about E.T. is that in some measure it does all those things. I love that review from
well put.
And that was already 20 years after it had been released.
That was already 20 years after. Gene Siskel I've written elsewhere that love stories seem to be in short supply these days, as they've been in the last decade of American movies, but in the hunger for love on the screen is there, and director Spielberg gives it to us in E.T. And because the lovers are a little boy and a little creature, we accept it. Of such simple concepts, timeless entertainments are made. I think that's
I have a question, just a thought. Would you say that this is Steven Spielberg's greatest film?
Wow.
Well,
right?
Mm.
That's
again, I'm gonna jump on the Rose train here and say that it's such a subjective question.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as Hook. I'm just kidding. I love Hook. I really love Hook.
I don't know. That's
no. I'm gonna go Raiders of the Lost Ark for me.
okay.
I mean, technically it's
that.
Last Crusade, but I'm just gonna include Indiana Jones. I think Indiana Jones is so revolutionary on everything. I would put this probably number 2.
Okay.
You know, if not number 3, just because if I'm putting the Indiana Joneses 1 and 2. But yeah, I don't know. No other.
That's right for
man.
So just like I like to highlight the good reviews, I also like to point out some of the douchebags that also review this.
Oh God, who said a negative thing about E.T.?
So there's 2 people that rated this 60, and the first one is Don McKellar from The Voice. E.T. is a dog movie.
Don.
Yeah, here, listen to this one. E.T. is a dog movie, genre-wise, I mean. It's about a boy meeting a dog, naming it, taming it, learning from it, and growing up. Of course, the genre is superficially disguised as science fiction, as was the fashion at the time. Like, Don must have just gone through a breakup at the time. Maybe he's going through some personal issues that we don't know about. But Don,
died.
If you're not feeling good when you go into the movie and you're not feeling good coming out of it, maybe you shouldn't write a review, because it's such a negative review and such a very simpleton way to, I mean, there's parts of it that he's
never read
wrong.
A script in his life. He's never looked at a book on how to tell a story, and he's never taken a class on how to create a film. He has no idea what he's talking about.
I'm going to assume he's probably not, in a healthy relationship, because he has no.
I argue he's probably never been laid.
Yeah, there you go. Pete throwing down the gauntlet on that one.
And
then the second one is Rick Kazanik from Film Threat. The story itself holds up fairly well, though 20 years later, does come off as thinner than I recalled. So maybe Rick was drinking that night, who knows? But again, yeah, Rick also has no feelings. But yeah, I thought those were very interesting perspectives. But like I said, I think regardless of whether you saw this as a child or not, I mean, if you don't feel anything, God bless you. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
But okay, so this will lead us into our first list. And I had mentioned this, actually I had not mentioned this before, but this actually did win the Oscar for best original score from John Williams. And so with that, we wanted to pick our top 5 best Oscar winning songs. Now, again,
of course,
the criteria unfortunately only lets us pick Oscar winning songs, not Oscar nominated, but Oscar winning songs. And unfortunately, the Academy let us down multiple times and has left off some of the greatest scores of all time, including Gladiator, that Rose mentioned in our pre-meeting, but very disappointing on some of the ones that actually won and some of the ones that were nominated. But with that being said, we'll start with Rose on this one with her top 5 best Oscar winning scores. Rose, let us have it.
Okay. So in number 5, and this is very difficult, goes Gravity.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And because the last song in Gravity,
oh, it's amazing.
I even have it in my playlist, my daily playlist is
same
there.
Here. Yeah, it's really, really good.
It's always there.
Yeah.
4, The Return of the King, Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
The Lord of the Rings won for the 3 movies.
All 3 of them, didn't it?
Yeah, but I went with the last one because the last one, the final battle, and then when Frodo goes to heaven, no, The soundtrack there is.
Yeah, you're probably
And-
actually. I think you're right. I didn't actually try to decipher. No, spoiler alert on my list. I didn't actually try to decipher between 1, 2, and 3. I just picked the first one just to be generic, but actually agree with your argument there. The third one and the third score is better than
yeah. I think it's the best. In third, Slumdog Millionaire, one of my favorite movies.
Oh, Slumdog Millionaire. I'll be the translator on that one.
Sorry,
Check your subtitles, people. Slumdog Millionaire.
Closed caption on.
Yeah.
I think the layers in the soundtrack of that movie is just amazing, and I love Bollywood movies and all that, and the culture. It's amazing, and specifically the theme of the girl, Kayla. I don't remember the name.
I haven't seen that film. I need to check that film out, actually, to be honest. That was during my dark. There's like a little bit of a dark phase I had where I wasn't see movies, and that was in it.
Oh, that movie is great. If you think like story-wise, that movie is amazing.
Yeah.
No, that movie is amazing.
I'll check it out.
Then it comes Titanic, because I
Nice.
love it. And the first one, and this will always be my first, and I don't care, and I win because I win, is The Lion King. The Lion King is by far my favorite soundtrack of all times.
Yeah, that's good.
I love that.
It makes me cry. It's emotional. It's like when I went to the Broadway show, I was crying, and I didn't even see the show because I was crying. But yeah, so
That's a great score. It's by Hans Zimmer for all those out there that don't know that.
Yeah.
So it was actually one of Hans Zimmer's first major commercial soundtracks. So I know Cool Runnings was up there. I don't know which one was first, but it's like Lion King, Cool Runnings, and then he did I don't know again the order. Then he did like The Rock and then Crimson Tide, and then those just kind of elevated him into like the action genre, and then the rest is history. So awesome. Dominique, your top 5 best Oscar-winning scores.
Okay, this was also very difficult for me, but coming in at number 5, I've got The Social Network. I really liked it because it was so different, because it was from Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails.
Right.
And it just had this like completely different vibe than any other film score I'd heard before. It was like, kind of electronic, a lot deeper, not so many, big sounding brass or violins or anything like that. So that's my number 5 pick. My number 4 pick is Dances with the Wolves. Just an
Dances
epic
with Wolves.
sweeping
Dancing.
What did I say?
Dances with the Wolves. Yeah. Unfortunately, the native culture, the Lakota Sioux don't add that many syllables to their names. It's just Dances with Wolves.
My bad.
I looked up this list on the internet earlier.
Yeah. And that's by John Barry. That's by John Barry for you folks out there keeping score.
Thank you. Number 4.
And by the way, thank you for saying wolves.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Titanic.
Nice.
Because that was an epic score, especially, during the 90s when I went to see it in the theater.
By the way, surprised that's only James Horner's only victory.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he got shut out so many times, and I think Titanic is not even close to his best score.
And he's one of the film composers of all time.
Braveheart didn't win.
Braveheart.
I mean, the score is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he had Enemy of the Gates.
I like that.
Sick.
He had so many different. I can't even name off the top of my head. He has so many great scores, but yeah.
Number 2 for me is Lawrence of Arabia. I saw that live, and that was epic.
Wait, you saw it live?
Yeah, at the Hollywood Bowl when I went to see John Williams.
Oh, the score.
Before he came out.
Dominique, check your birth certificate there.
Anyway, the LA Phil performed it, and it was just breathtaking. And then my number 1 is The Godfather.
Let me make a point about that, by the way, because I'm familiar with scores before 1960, but unfortunately recording before 1960 is so poor that it affects like your listening experience. You know what I mean? And there are great scores before that, but the recording of them is not as good as today's. And so it's very hard for a older score to compete with the modern one because of the instruments and then just how it's recorded. And so I give you props, but it makes sense that you heard it live because you're gonna hear the score at its best versus.
I mean, it was insane. Like, you know, especially from the LA Phil and in that setting, it was awesome. And so then my number one is The Godfather, which that is just
Godfather 2.
You know, 2. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, the first one did not win.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, Peter?
Yeah. I don't understand either of your lists. Quite frankly, I don't understand how somebody like John Williams can have so many Academy Awards for.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Time out.
Any of them on your lists at all? Really?
Well, wait.
Oh wait, smart tactic here by Pete by belittling his opponents before he even gets into his list. Smart tactic, guys. I
repeatedly asked. I said, "Is John Williams allowed?" Because I know that you guys have already done the best John Williams scores. So I said, "Was that allowed?" Because if not, that I picked everything non-John Williams because I figured you guys had already done that.
No.
Oh well, Jesus Christ! Can I go back and make another list? Because it would have been all John Williams. Are you kidding me? Star Wars.
Okay. We can come back to you. We'll go to Pete if you want to make some changes. I misinterpreted your question.
I didn't get that impression from your question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't. There's no omission on anybody. It's just the best.
For
Here
me,
are the winners. Pick the best.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I effed that all up then.
If you want to give a new order, I'll cut you out. Okay. So cut.
All right.
Number 5 for me, because The Godfather number 1 didn't win, which is a travesty.
Yeah.
I got to put Godfather 2, 1974, one of the greatest. Very you can take simple one instrument, or you can take an entire orchestra, or you can do an old Italian standard that is just completely orchestral and just gorgeous. Number 4 is Jaws. You can't get a more iconic score than that. It's the most played kind of thing that you can have out there. Dun, 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 and you hear it everywhere. Number 3, I put the original Lord of the Rings, the first one, The Fellowship, because I mean, it was a score that I had heard that gave me what I love about a movie like this, where the score takes you on a journey, just like the story takes you on a journey, and the music followed suit. The good guys had their beautiful music. The hobbits had their really sweet music. The bad guys had their really treacherous music. And then the fight scenes were just epic. It was a really, really gorgeous score. Number 2, for a lot of those same reasons, is E.T. And for the main reason for me is that I don't even have to watch the movie. I can just listen to the score, and I can feel a story being told from start to finish. You can't just do that. That's why John Williams is a genius. Like, he can actually tell a story with a score. He doesn't even need picture.
I gotta give you props on that, Pete. And to me, that's always what really separates kind of the haves and have-nots and the greats versus the goods. You know what I mean? Like, I listen. So, I mean, when I'm writing, when I'm editing, I listen to scores, and I'll hear a piece of music, and again, the music that's just there's music that I like, but I don't remember a scene to it. And then there's specific music that plays, and then boom, that scene, and I'm there in that scene, and it takes me to this world. And again, that's what you can get when you have such a powerful and great composer. And I know there's different film philosophies, and I know some people like the more subtle and all that stuff. But you know, my personal preference is always when you can add a guy like John Williams to your movie, like, it just takes it to another level, because like you're saying, you can compartmentalize the music, and then you're there in that movie right away. And to me, like, what else do you want from a score? I don't know. Again, personal preference, but yeah, I love that. So continue.
Yeah. Thank you. And then number 1, best score of all time, Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, started off explosion right in your face, and then you get right onto onto Tatooine, and you just kind of mellow things out a little bit, but then there's like dancing to it, there's rhythm, and then it's just epic. It's it's E.T. on steroids in terms of storytelling in that music. It just takes you through an entire journey. So
yeah, for sure.
Point, Peter.
Dominique, why don't you give us your top 5 best Oscar winning scores?
Okay, coming in at number 5, Lawrence of Arabia. It's just classic, it's sweeping, it's epic, it's all over the place. I love it. Number 5. Number 4 is The Godfather 2. Number 3, we're going to start the John Williams list, is Jaws. Again, super iconic. You know, it invokes fear, it makes you scared, it's creepy. Number 2 and number 1, I had a really, really hard time going back and forth with, but I'm going to go with E.T., which pains me to say that as number 2. I will say that I actually do listen to this in the car quite a bit, and I'll have my little boy with me, and I'll do the whole like, okay, wait for it, here it comes, and then just, you know, when that hits, and it just takes this whole feeling comes over me, and it takes me back to a very happy time and place in my life. And but number 1 is Star Wars, because that is just, God, what an epic score. I mean, Leia has a theme, Yoda has a theme.
Yeah.
You know, the intro, the ending, all the things, the Star Wars Cantina, like, it's just so great. And my favorite, I think, part of the score is Yoda's theme with the flute. That's just so good.
It's all good.
And the genius of John Williams is like, and then then he comes right in the next movie. He's got the Imperial March. It's like this guy
that too, and Vader,
to make iconic scores.
But the more amazing part, though, so yeah, we're talking the 80s there, right? So he's 90 now.
70s.
No, I'm saying he's 90 now. When he did episode 7, 8, and 9, he had new themes, like the Rey theme, and
Rey's theme's great. Kylo Ren's theme is great.
It was like, oh my goodness, like, how does this guy, like, he still incorporated regular Star Wars and then still made it like a brand new score that was excellent. And I was blown.
He wrote I don't know if you would call it a theme song, but for the Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, like it has its own score there.
No, I mean, cool. Again, there's a reason why he's the GOAT.
He's the man.
I mean, he never sleeps, he never eats. Like, he's literally just writing music all day, every day.
He's a vampire of music.
God. The vampire of music, John Williams. Awesome. All right, so I have similarities with everybody. So my top 5 best Oscar winning scores, my number 5 is Lord of the Wings.
Lord of the Wings.
There we go.
Lord of the Wings.
Yeah. By Howard Shore. And I'll actually agree with Rose. I mean, I initially just wrote the original one just because I kind of grouped them all together. But I actually agree with her. Return of the King is a superior score. So many different subtleties to the score. It includes the original stuff, but then there's other great themes. And then, the end battle is just such an epic battle.
So good.
And great job by Howard Shore. My number 4, Titanic. Again, when you're talking about one of the greatest composers of all time, James Horner is on that list. And this is not my favorite James Horner score. I've already mentioned a few of them. Braveheart is, should have won. I don't know if someone can look that up while I'm giving the rest of my list, but
one of my top 5 favorite is
Braveheart should have won. But if somebody can look that up on what it was competing against. But Titanic is still a great score. It's still iconic. It includes also the Celine Dion song theme in it. But I mean, everybody that's seen Titanic, I mean, it's obviously one of the most impactful films of all time. Crushed the box offices. Critics still liked it as well. Amazing score by James Horner. My number 3, I believe someone else had this. Dances with Wolves, John Barry. Did anybody else have that on their list or no?
Wolves.
Oh no, you cut it.
I cut it. It got cut.
Yeah, you got cut. Well, that hurts you. But Dances with Wolves is one of my favorite, and just like anything, I have scores that impact me certain times of life. But I went on this one trip when I was in 8th grade, and that the music of that was playing like while I was doing a play. And it's always just ingrained in my head. But it's just this great Western kind of epic score by John Barry. John Barry got nominated for a few different scores. I don't know how many he won off the top of my head, but I know he won at least this one, obviously, for Dance with Wolves. I know he did Out of Africa and a couple others, but one of my favorite scores of all time. It's got some great themes on it. And then number 2, I'm with Pete and Dominique on this one. E.T., amazing. And for me, what makes this score kind of separate from the others, because there was a couple other, Schindler's List was on there. I would love to include Schindler's List. But for E.T., like I said, it just changes the outcome of this film when the E.T. theme kind of comes in, the dun 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 dun, when they're on the bikes at the end. Like you just get chills on it, because it's like, and it hadn't been played yet, so it was the first time that kind of theme played on it, and then it built on the actual theme. But the excitement, the ending is one of the greatest endings of all time with film, and it just took the film to another level, and the score is a major part of that. And then number 1, there's zero argument when it comes to John Williams and Star Wars is the greatest theme of all time.
Amen.
And the greatest soundtrack of all time. And again, because there's also other iterations, and then there's also like mini themes upon mini themes. It's
never ending.
Really, it's never ending. You really get to see just the brilliance of John Williams, his influence. Pete actually got me into the influence of John Williams. So if you love John Williams as a composer, you have to listen to it's called The Planets by Holst. Yeah.
Oh.
So Holst, Holst, and it's called Planets. But you can hear the inspiration, and he used a lot of similar instruments, but you can
I love that.
It's highly inspired John Williams. Now again, John Williams took what Holst did and then took it to another level. He's like the Phil Jackson, you know what I mean? So he took a playoff team and then made it to a championship contender. But he didn't build it from scratch, but he built off and again made all these great themes. The Imperial March, you can hear Braveheart, you can hear all these different kind of themes. You're like, oh, okay. But he took it and just again kind of built upon it. So
to your point, in 1995, James Horner was nominated for 2, Apollo 13 and Braveheart, but they lost to The Postman.
And by the way, that's not the James Newton Howard The Postman soundtrack, which is also really good. This is
this is the Luis Bacalov.
Yeah, I think it's an Italian film called The Postman. And again, huge travesty. Braveheart, Apollo 13 was great, by the way, too. A great score.
Super good.
Yeah.
And in any other year, that should have been the winner. But Braveheart is, again, you hear the score of Braveheart, and you're like, oh, you're on the fields,
battle,
battling for Scotland's freedom. You know what I mean?
But even in '89, James Horner did Field of Dreams.
Oh yeah,
and that lost to The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, and the score of Little Mermaid. I understand like music and song, but the score of Little Mermaid isn't as good as Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams is a great score.
I think I beg
to differ.
They are beautiful, but the one that we were talking in the pre-meeting that I think it's for me one of the greatest scores of all time is The Passion of the Christ, who lost against Finding Neverland. That I think the movie is amazing, and Johnny Depp does
Finding Neverland's so good.
I don't know. I have no reference on either of those.
You don't know Finding Neverland?
I like that
I saw it, but I gotta
judge.
see it again. Again, that was kind of my dark period of the film. So
and exactly, it's like you have The Passion of the Christ competing with Finding Neverland.
Yeah.
How does Finding Neverland has the point on that one? So there's a lot of things that, like, when I went through the list, it's like, man, Forrest Gump, it was against Lion King, so I actually love the Lion King one, but those are the moments that you're like,
Forrest Gump, so good.
Bro, what do you do? But yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, let's move along. We gotta pick up our pace a little bit. But okay, so point. I'm gonna give the point to Pete. Pete, I thought crushed the soundtrack overall. Dominique did a good job on her revision. I
Thank
love
you.
Rose's diversity, but you know, Pete, I think knocked it out of the park with
Crushed.
yeah. So okay, so our score is 1-1-1, and so then our next category is, and the Oscar goes to, and this can go to a cast, crew member, anybody that you felt just absolutely dominated the film. The actual Oscars that this film won is Best Sound, and those involved were Robert Knudsen, Robert Glass, Don DiGirolamo, Gene S. Cantamessa, that's an Italian name right there, and Best Effects, Visual Effects it won Carlo Rambaldi, Dennis Murin, and Kenneth Smith. It also won Best Effects for Sound Effects Editing, Charles L. Campbell, and Ben Burt. Ben Burt of Raiders of the Lost Ark fame. I mean, this guy is maybe the GOAT when it comes to sound design. And then it also won Best Music, Original Score, John Williams, like we just discussed. It was also nominated for 5 more. Best Picture, Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy were nominated. It lost to Richard Attenborough for Gandhi. And then Best Director, Steven Spielberg, lost to Richard Attenborough, Gandhi. You're going to start seeing a theme here.
Give me a break.
Nominated Best Writing Screenplay written directly for the screen, lost to John Briley for Gandhi. Yeah,
Gandhi.
Melissa Matheson, like I mentioned before. Best Cinematography, Alan Davio, lost to Billy Williams and Ronnie Taylor for
Gandhi,
yeah. And then Best Film Editing was nominated Carol Littleton, who did a great job, lost to John Bloom for
Gandhi.
Yeah. So, and then fun fact here, Richard Attenborough later said that he felt bad that his own film Gandhi beat this film to the Best Picture Academy Award because he considered his friend Steven Spielberg's film more deserving the award and was convinced before the ceremony that it would win. Attenborough described E.T. as quite an extraordinary piece of cinema. So
what a classy dude, and he's right on the money.
Yeah, look, Gandhi I think is a good film, great film even. But again, it doesn't have the staying power that E.T. has. I mean, I've watched Gandhi recently. Again, great film, great story of a great man, but it's not E.T. it's not E.T. It doesn't make you emotional like E.T. does. And yeah, a travesty on all those categories that it lost, because honestly, it should have won all those. Now, I have to watch again for the cinematography and maybe the editing again, but you know, those are 2 tough categories that this film does really, really well. So, okay, so Rose, start last one. I'll start with Dominique on this one. Dominique, who gets your best Oscar?
Score. That's what we've been talking about this whole time. I think we're across the board. We agree that it's the best. Yeah. I mean, behind Star Wars, but I mean, absolutely. I think that's what makes this movie stand out the most to me. It's just all the feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Hands down.
Rose, we'll go with you next.
Love your sound.
Rose, what stood out for you?
Henry Thomas. Him crying and then snapping out and acting like he's crying, and you believing like how the actor, like he's crying, and then when he finds out E.T. is alive, he pretends that he's crying. So it's an acting within an acting. Yeah. So that I just think the guy is amazing, and you cry with him, like he really is crying. And Drew Barrymore also, but I think for a kid, I don't know how old was he when he made the movie.
I want to say, someone know that or no? I think he was 10, but
sounds about right.
I would guess that.
But even his audition should have won an award.
Yeah. You want to tell a story, Pete, about the audition?
No, go ahead.
Oh,
I don't know it exactly. I just know that I saw it, and he was. I think he thought about his dog
dying or something. I read that too.
Yeah, he thought about his dog dying, and so he just did this scene. And Steven Spielberg had seen like over 300 people for this role, and he saw that audition with Henry Thomas, and he literally gave him the spot. He gave him the role in the spot. So incredible.
That kid, I think that kid is amazing. And at that age, feeling that and not knowing exactly what is happening, but knowing what is happening, because right now, like when you're older, you're like exactly you know what's happening.
Yeah.
So getting into the character, I think he did an amazing job.
Yeah, and then he topped this performance off with Cloak and Dagger, which is also an amazing film. So.
Classic movie.
And I am being sarcastic, but I actually really do love Cloak and Dagger. Pete and I watched
Cloak and Dagger's cool.
I've never
like
seen
1,000 times. Oh, it's such a good movie. It's not obviously it's not a good role as this film.
Probably doesn't hold up, but
sure.
I want to watch it again. I really love that film. I thought it was great.
I don't think I've even heard of it.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's a solid 80s. It's like in the realm of like Fly the Navigator.
Oh, okay.
I love like it's like a Disney-ish type of kid movie.
Okay.
Well,
Dabney Coleman is like
Dabney Coleman. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's so good in it.
It's got some good themes in it. Like I said, this I think it'll hold up pretty decently, but it's a really pretty unique story. But anyways, so Pete, give us your best Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, the ladies said two that were I had three on my list, and you guys nailed the two that I had. So I'm gonna go with the screenwriting. Only because going back to what I said initially about this movie, and to be able to write something this special and this sort of heartfelt, and to incorporate so many different themes, about friendship, about abandonment, about I had another one about communication. There's each phase of this movie, there's an element of communication, whether it's they can't talk at all, and then he builds a thing to communicate, and then Drew Barrymore teaches him how to talk and to communicate, and then they don't need to communicate with words, they just do it telepath. I mean, there's just so much. It's so rich and it's so deep, this story, and can't put it on the film without having it written out first. So I'll go, since you guys did an awesome job with those two choices, then I'm going screenwriting for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, to Rose's point, the way Henry Thomas can just cry, the comp to that, like a more recent, is the kid from Finding Neverland, who can just
which is Pete's number 5 performance. If you haven't checked that video out, Pete's number 5, Freddie Highmore, right, Pete? Freddie Highmore.
Yeah,
Freddie Highmore.
Yeah.
Freddie.
So wait, go back. Melissa Matheson was the screenwriter.
Melissa Matheson was a screenwriter, but
fun fact about her, she was married to Harrison Ford for 30 years.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Again, and she was on the set for Raiders Lost Ark, and Steven Spielberg was literally telling his thoughts on this movie, and so she was just kind of jotting it down, and then ultimately wrote the screenplay.
Amazing.
So my vote, I think everybody obviously picked winners. I mean, there's so many different people that are. This is a multi Oscar winning film, but mine, and he didn't win, and he should have, was Steven Spielberg. And the only reason why I'm picking Steven Spielberg was for the choices that he made. And well, one, Pete mentioned it before, the story, and this is his story. So it's not common when it's written by somebody else that the story is actually the director's, but he didn't get story credit too, I don't believe, but this was actually his story, and Melissa Matheson ran with it. But the other things that, to me, what made Steven Spielberg stand out is he shot most of the film from the eye level of a child to further connect with Elliot and E.T. Again, these are small things as a director. It's just, you could shoot this however you want, but just that thought process to me is awesome. And then the end of the film was one of the most significant musical experiences for composer John Williams. After several attempts to match the score to the film, Spielberg took the film off the screen and encouraged Williams to conduct the orchestra the way he would at a concert. And he did, and then Spielberg went back and slightly re-edited the film to match the music, which is unusual since some of the music would be edited to match the film. And of course, you watch the ending now, there was actually another scene after this, but they ended up cutting it because they're like, dude, how do you change what's there? Like, the movie is such a climax at the ending, and then it ends on such a high note, with Elliot's face, and then just, it doesn't even fade out, it just cuts out, right? And it's perfect. It's perfect. Like you can't. The scene makes sense too. When I tell you about the scene later, it'll be like, oh man, that's a great scene, but it would take away from the impact that the film had. And then there was another part where during the filming, Drew Barrymore was consistently forgetting her lines, annoying Steven Spielberg to the point where he actually yelled at her. He later found out that she reported work with very high fever. Feeling guilty, he hugged her and apologized repeatedly as she cried and cried. He then sent her home with a note from the director. And again, like he doesn't have to do stuff like that, but you're just talking about the impact a director can have on everything. And then the other thing I loved is the doctors and nurses who worked on ET were all real emergency room technicians from the USC Medical Center. And they were told to treat ET the same way they would treat a real patient, so that their dialogue and actions would seem real. And Spielberg felt that actors wouldn't be able to make the medical dialogue sound natural, so he recruited them to deliver the lines. So all that they're doing, they're literally just trying to save ET like it's a child. And so again, not every director would make that decision, but Spielberg just, again, knocks it out of the park with that. I'll try and speed through the rest of these. I already told you about that. I already told you about the ending. So the original ending, according to Robert McNaughton, who is Michael, the last scene in the movie wasn't supposed to be the scene that ends up in the movie. The last scene was going to be all of us playing Dungeons and Dragons, except this time Elliot's the dungeon master, because he was the one that Family T sort of got in with the group. And so that was supposed to be the final scene. It was in the script and everything. It would pan to the roof and you see the communicator and it's still working. And in other words, Elliot is still in touch with ET. But after they did the score and the music, they saw what they have with the spaceship taking off and everything. And how can you follow that? I mean, it was a wise choice. So again, great job by shooting it. And then ultimately saying, you know what? It's perfect as is. Let's not do that. I love that as a filmmaker, because sometimes like you could write a script and you're like, I love what's on the paper. And then when you get to the final and you're in the editing room, it's just like, you know what? No, let's do this, let's do that. And when I heard that story, this is why I give Spielberg the award versus, somebody else, because if anybody else directed this, you may not be getting this product. You know what I mean? And then according to Spielberg, none of the children were acting. They had to act through the movie in a chronological order and never saw the ET costume without an actor inside of it, let alone the actor without the costume. So when the ending was filmed, they actually had to befriend the alien and now had to say goodbye forever. And the heartbreak was real. This is what I love most, because this is what you feel at the end. Like Drew Barrymore is saying goodbye to ET and Henry Thomas is saying goodbye to ET. Like they had built such a bond with that. And it's Steven Spielberg is making that decision to say, like, these are the rules, guys. Like he treated these kids like adults, but also just created this environment for them to just thrive in it. And that's why you got all these incredible performances from him. A couple more. Spielberg deliberately filmed the scene, so it looks like the scientists are hurting ET rather than trying to save them, which again kind of adds to the the chaos. And then again, like we're saying, shot the film in chronological order and just evokes so many real emotions. And then I didn't pick this up, but Keyes tells Elliot, and Keyes is Peter Coyote, by the way, who's the first name in the movie, and he's basically Tom Billing. Yeah, he's the scientist that's basically chasing ET in the beginning and kind of looking after him. But he said that ET came to him too, and he'd been dreaming of this moment since he was 10 years old. And just before this, you can see ET meet eyes with Key, and there you can see his look of recognition. And so, yeah, like I would still have to probably see it another time to pick up that stuff. But Peter Coyote pretty much is Elliot as an adult. So he had been wanting what Elliot experienced and just never happened. And so kind of to Pete's point, when you're talking about like the screenplay and the layers, I mean, that's to add that in for the one of the characters, and he's technically like the villain, right? And
he's portrayed as such. You think that,
but to have the villain want the same thing, I mean, you're pretty much, it's a perfect villain to want the same thing that Elliot wants, but just written in a different way. I mean, again, just brilliant screenwriting. So awesome. So with that, my vote on this one. So Rose, I'm gonna go with Rose on this one. I really like your Henry Thomas. I mean, everybody's right on this one. I can give a point to anybody on this one. I'm gonna give Rose the point on this one just
You gotta break the
because
tie.
her explanation on Henry Thomas, I think, is spot on. I mean, he legitimately should have got an Oscar for
so
his
good.
role, and he got robbed. The fact that
He
he
was
wasn't
incredible.
considered is a massive travesty. So Rose just took the lead with that.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
2-1. And yeah. Okay. So our next category is the Get Me RA Gold Award for different castings. Now, there's gonna be no voting on this one because there pretty much was no casting things. I'm just gonna give a couple notes. Harrison Ford initially filmed the cameo role as Elliot's school headmaster, but the scene was cut. So that'd been kind of cool to see a Harrison Ford cameo. At the auditions, we already talked about this one, so never mind. Corey Feldman was originally scheduled for a role in E.T., but over the course of the script rewrite, his part was eliminated. Spielberg felt bad about the decision and promised Feldman a part in the next planned production, which turned out to be Gremlins. Feldman went on to play Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Great decision there for Corey Feldman. That was a terrible film, so probably should have taken the role in Gremlins. But Deborah, this was interesting. I didn't know this.
Wait,
Deborah,
you said he should have taken the role. He was in Gremlins.
Corey Feldman?
Yeah, he's the next door neighbor. Or he's the kid that hangs out with. Yeah, he's in it. I love that movie. He's his buddy.
Oh, okay. Maybe I read it wrong. Okay, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Dominique.
Thank you.
The next, Deborah Winger not only provided the temp voice for E.T., but also played one of the ghouls in the Halloween sequence. She's wearing a monster mask and had a lab coat and carries a poodle. Though uncredited, Deborah Winger contributed to the voice of E.T. Ironically, this would be her most famous role.
That is so random.
Yeah. This is also C. Thomas Howell's film debut. He's one of the friends of Michael. Sarah Michelle Gellar auditioned for the role of Curry. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that infuriated me. They walked past, like, the pizza wasn't absolutely ruined. They just left the floor when they walked away. I was like, dude,
what are you doing?
Assholes. Perfect good pizza. First of all, they weren't even supposed to order it, and then they just left it on the ground. Yeah. And there's still like a full pizza left. Although one of them grabbed
Howell did have, he did carry one.
Yeah, piece. One of them just grabbed one slice, but he didn't even grab the rest of the box. That infuriated me. Juliette Lewis auditioned for the role of Gertie, but her father reportedly made her turn it down. The role of Mary, the children's mother, was first offered to Shelley Long, but she had already signed the film Night Shift and was forced to decline. I could see her doing that role. I think she could have done a solid job on that one. And then Melissa Matheson, we already spoke about her, the film screenwriter, filmed a cameo as Elliot's school nurse, but that scene was cut. And then Ralph Macchio auditioned for the role of Tyler. I don't know who specifically that is. I'm assuming it's one of the friends. And then this is the feature. I like this one. This is the feature film debut of Erica Eleniak. I don't know if you guys know, that's the girl who Elliot kisses in class, but she ended up being like a Playboy model. She was in Baywatch, I believe. But super hot girl. She grows up. I mean, she's cute in the film, but she's grown to be super hot. So good job for her. Okay. So our next category is It's Not Your Fault, the most powerful scene that gets you emotional / sad. So this one will focus on the sad aspect because there is definitely those moments in this one. And so there might be a lot of repeats on this one. So whoever gives me the best explanation will ultimately win the award. So I started with Rose last time. So Pete should be you, right? No, I started with Dominique last time. I think it's Pete now again.
Okay. I think we're all going to have one of two answers here.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's the goodbye. It's the ending. As triumphant as it sounds when the film just cuts to black, it's a devastating time. Everybody's crushed. Even Gertie, who is just like, he's just like, be good, and she's like, okay, I will. And that was just such an iconic moment. And to Rose's point about Henry Thomas, he just kills it in the scene. I left the theater in tears because of this. And I almost left my room in tears after I watched it last night because it's the most powerful thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Don't want him to go. But then E.T.'s like, why don't you come with me? And it's just like, God, no, we can't. Don't you see? You can't stay and I can't go. This is actually goodbye. There's no way we can get around it. It's a goodbye. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dominique, what do you have?
Gosh, I went back and forth with this as well because there are so many scenes. But for me, even as a grown, almost 42-year-old adult, I could not get through the part. The saddest part to me is when Michael finds E.T. down in the ditch, laying down, and like the raccoon runs by and he's just totally pale.
The raccoon, man, the raccoon fucks you up because it's like, like that's not good. Raccoons are positive animals.
and it's like the whole scene is set that he's freezing, right? And he's all by himself, and Elliot had to leave him, and that's the saddest part for me by far. I'm not even kidding you when I tell you I had to fast forward it through last night. I was like, I don't have the emotional strength right now to get through this. I have to just keep going. But the end is sad to me too, but it's also a little bit joyous because he's going home and shared this, he's alive and they've shared obviously these moments together. But the saddest part for me is
don't knock my pick.
She's trying to Dominique you right now.
Yeah, 2 seconds in a river, white.
All right, Rose, what do you have?
Okay, for me is also the ending, but building and they're flying, and the ending. Why? Because it's not an ending just for Elliot, it's for everyone, because it's us also saying bye to ET. And as I told you before, and as I talked about it, it was a metaphor of understanding life and accepting life. So it leaves you like, okay, completely looking up. This is a new era. I went through this. I have to say goodbye to the past and come and get into the new part of it. So he leaves you with that hope, but also remembering, because remembering is part of it, and is the beauty of it.
Yeah,
it's the past, but it goes with you. So that's why I think it's really powerful, that scene, because the phase in Elliot is sadness but joy. So it's the sadness because you have to say goodbye to that part of life, but the joy because you're bringing it with you, and here comes the next thing. So as a viewer, you get that thing, like you're so connected to that. So I think it's so emotional because it's all of us saying goodbye, and it's all of us leaving us with a reflection of, wow, okay, reflection on life itself.
I don't think I ever thought of it this way, but in a way it's a funeral, you know what I mean? And like you're saying, but it's a funeral of not someone that died suddenly. It's a funeral that someone that, like a grandparent, it's somebody that you love and somebody you care about, but it's also like they've been suffering. But someone it's someone has been suffering, and so it's like you're happy that they're moving on, but at the same time you're still sad because you're saying goodbye. And so like that's, I do think that's a big part of it. Or again, maybe it's a best friend, but somebody that's been suffering, and then this is their way, they're going back home. But like you're saying, their life will continue on, but it's not the end of their life and their journey, but it's the end of this
relationship
in the present. But I mean, I basically had the same scene. I mean, it's like I said, I think there's several different scenes that you could pick that all work.
E.T. dying is another.
E.T. dying. I mean, those are all sad, but I think John Williams makes the scene probably vaulted to the top because his music during the scene,
like all of them were there
combined with the performances and the editing, like everything. I think it's just over the top. So again, guys, this is a closely contested battle. I'm gonna give Rose won the metaphor, and I think she kind of crushed it with that metaphor. It made me think
that was good, Rose.
On a different line. Good job, Rose. That was deep. Okay, so Rose is now takes the lead 3-1.
Wow.
And our next category is the top 5 best alien movies. Alien involved movies. So anything with an alien. And so we'll start with Rose first on this one. Rose, give us your top 5 best alien films.
Please, everyone here laugh, because one of the movies that I'm gonna talk about, I'm gonna lose. But my number 5 is Aliens in the Attic.
Aliens in the Attic?
Exactly. That's a
I've
movie.
never heard of that film.
Exactly.
I don't know that movie.
Exactly. It's a movie that actually teased Aliens in that. But you know what? I can watch that movie. Like, I watch it every year with my sisters, because we got together and watched it in a like on a trip. So it became like a tradition. So it's so close to my heart. But this
Near
is
and
one of
dear,
the worst
yeah.
movies.
Wow.
Austin Butler from Elvis is in it. Ashley
Yeah.
Tisdale.
No, it's the worst movie ever. Like, the worst, but I love it.
It looks like a kind of a kid's movie, yeah.
It is. Then it comes Arrival. I think Arrival.
Oh shit. Good job. I didn't put that on my list. Damn it.
Yeah, no.
Forgot about Arrival.
Okay, so 3, Prey. Prey is this new one that it's like natives. And
it just came out from the Predator series.
Exactly, it just came out, but the story itself, it's very good because it's deep and it has layers to it.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I want to watch it again. Actually, I want to watch it again. I think I missed some stuff, but I liked it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Then I don't know if I can. Well, yeah, Super 8.
Oh no, yeah, nice.
Prey, the new movie.
Yeah. No, J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg executive produced it.
No, they did an amazing job actually on the story and everything. Like,
I love that film.
I love that film.
So good.
Yeah. So, then Super 8, and number 1. I don't know if this is an alien one, but since there's some aliens, I will go with Avengers Endgame, because there's aliens involved. So
yeah, technically it works.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it there.
All right.
Because I think it's an amazing movie, and I actually like a lot of movies with aliens. So
I didn't on my list. I didn't add any comic book movies just because I think that's a little too easy. But you can make that argument. It's hard to argue against it.
Thanos is an alien.
No, 100%. Yeah, Thanos is not on this earth. So, okay, Dominique, what do you have?
Okay, number 5, I have Men in Black. It's just a fun movie. Nice. It's that old, cop buddy movie. You've got grumpy old Tommy Lee Jones with the new rookie. Yeah. It's funny. It's action packed. It was a lot of fun. I remember seeing it in the theater.
Will Smith in his prime.
Totally, Will Smith in his prime. I think it was one of his, like, other than the other alien movie, Independence Day, right? Like his kind of big movie breakout after Fresh Prince.
Yeah, I mean, this is when he's a full-on bona fide A-lister, and then his acting is also up to par too, so like in Independence Day, he's still kind of like, it's his first movie, so he's still kind of feeling out. He's great in it, but Men in Black, he really combines the great comedy with action and the whole one of his best roles, if not the best.
It's a pretty staying movie because, again, I kind of use my little boy as like the tester. And he just watched 1 and 2 back to back and loved both of them.
Excellent. Yeah, so, I just saw it not too long ago. Excellent film.
Yeah. Number 4 is Predator, the original from, I believe, like 87 or 88. Yep. So I was probably my little boy's age, 7 or 8 years old, had no business watching that movie, but my stepdad at the time, that was his favorite film. And so if you grew up in the 80s, when you had a favorite film and you had it on VHS, you watched that sucker over and over and over again. Yeah. And what I love about Predator is all the different characters, like God, and I'm gonna forget everybody's name right now, but just like all of I guess they were Marines or the special unit that they were operating in, Carl Weathers, obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger is Dutch. The soundtrack when they're coming in on the helicopter, Jesse Ventura's character when he's got like the 2 big, huge guns and he's just going crazy. The guy that plays the Native American, I can't remember his name either, but nevertheless, that was such a great film. And it was just really neat how they did it, how he was like camouflaged. And
for sure.
This, out of this world alien. And so then number 3 for me is Alien, the first one with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Also remember watching this as a kid, and it's so, oh God, it's so scary without, I don't think, being meant to be a scary film, because it's not like,
yeah.
yeah, like it's not, slashing and gory that way, but it's
Suspenseful. Yeah.
so suspenseful, and it's so great. And again, with all the characters and how they all kind of just get, taken down. And also, for her to be the heroine and the female badass in that movie, really great as a little girl to see that role being played by her. So going off of that, my number 2 is Aliens. And the reason I like Aliens more than Alien is because it's just a hyped up version with the action. And I love the characters like, what is it? Hicks and Hudson is my favorite, which is, I believe, was Bill Paxton.
Which one directed the second one? Is it Cameron directed the second one? Or Ridley
I think
Scott?
so. Yeah, Ridley Scott was the first.
Right. Okay. So James Cameron directed the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the second one, and the music in it is so cool. And but like there's so many good one-liners in there, like, we're all gonna die, man. I love that, and Paul Reiser's like the super villain in it. He's great. So yeah, love Aliens. And then of course my number 1 is the film we're all here for, which is E.T., hands down by far.
Yeah. Yeah, good call. Pete, dog, what do you got?
Not bad list, ladies. Unfortunately, mine's a perfect list. So
here we go.
Here we go.
I did mine. I sort of to what Paul was saying. I sort of eliminated superheroes, and I eliminated like Star Wars. I just thought it was again too easy.
Totally.
So I went with impact on me. In watching these films, and these were like
you got probed by an alien, or what do you mean?
Yeah. These 5 movies took me back to when I got violated. Number 5 for me is The Abyss. That movie was like
so good.
So claustrophobic, and it just, you don't even get to see a lot of the aliens, but just the feeling that you have when you're watching this movie is just, oh my God, and it's really well done.
Fantastic. Also James Cameron.
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 4 was Men in Black. I thought that when that came out, it was just a different way to tell an alien story. It was fun. It was funny. It was action packed, and it was really well done. Number 3 for me blew me away the first time I saw it, and then every time after that, Independence Day. The movie just came out, and just there was like a summer blockbuster, and then Independence Day happened, and it just turned summer blockbusters into a whole new stratosphere. And it was mind-blowing the way, and the effects were just like, oh my God, we've never seen anything like it.
Well, the White House.
Blow that shit up. Number 2 for me is a sneaky one. Haven't heard anybody talk about it, but it's really great. It's Signs by M. Night Shyamalan, and it's one of the best alien films I've ever seen. It's a story that aliens, and you maybe get to see one for like a second
when he runs by.
When he runs by, or when Joaquin is watching the TV and he like freaks out because they show the alien on the newscast, and just the acting and the way the story was told. It was one of the best films I think I've ever seen. I think it's one of the most underrated films out there. Signs, incredible. And number 1, like Dominique says, it's why we're here today. It's E.T. for all the reasons we've talked about ad nauseum.
Yeah, absolutely. So my list, again, very similar. My number 5 is the only one probably different than anybody else. So my number 5, I decided to slash it just because these are 2 just off the scare movies. No, because when you hear them, you'll be like, okay, I get it. So my number 5 is Fly the Navigator / The Last Starfighter. And the only reason I couldn't choose between the 2, but I just wanted to acknowledge these films because these are great 80s films, and I didn't want to pick one or the other, and I just wanted to expose these films. So again, these are great family films. Check them out. They're on Disney Plus, I believe. I'm not sure about The Last Starfighter. I know Fly the Navigator is both on them, but these are great films growing up. I loved them both.
A million times growing up.
My teacher,
Fly the Navigator is great.
One of my teachers from middle school, Mr. Snyder, actually worked on the Last Starfighter in the
The Last Night
VFX
Fighter.
department. Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to him. But yeah, those are my number 5s. My number 4, Pete mentioned it, Abyss. And honestly, I could put Arrival too. Arrival's so good, and I didn't even think about Arrival.
So good,
but so good. But Abyss, Arrival, I'd put number 4 here. I'm slashing all the way through this.
Slashing the whole way down.
No, but Abyss is what I wrote down. But again, like Pete's saying, it's just such a great film, and you don't think of it as an alien film, but it is. And number 3, Men in Black. You guys already mentioned it. Just one, especially in our lifetime, just a movie that just kind of turned the whole genre on its head. Pure comedy, Will Smith at its greatest. And number 2, Independence Day, such an impact. I mean, I saw this film on July 2nd, and that's when the film starts. And I saw it in theaters, and it was, I mean, people were shook because it was one of those films where you don't actually know how you're going to beat the enemy, and and how they do it is just fantastic. And then number 1, E.T. E.T. is the greatest. No alien is as loved and then also continues to have an impact than E.T. And it's a clear number 1. So with that being said, my point's going to go to Pete. He had probably the most complete list in terms of what I picked. All you ladies had great lists. I loved everybody's list.
What the heck?
Honestly, this is one of the most competitive games we've seen so far, but it's a flip of the coin, literally almost.
One of my favorite lists we've done so far, by the way. I had a lot of fun making this one.
It was great.
So good.
Okay. So updated score, we have Rose still at 3, Pete we have at 2, and Dominique at 1. Still a very close match. A lot to still. Our next scene, Ma, the meatloaf, a scene that makes you laugh or feel good. This one can kind of border on that one. So we started with Rose last one. So we'll start with Dominique on this one. We'll start with Dominique on this one, and then Pete next, then Rose.
Best feel-good scene, hands down, is when they first fly off and they go across and the moonshot and the score comes up, and you're just like, as a little kid watching this movie on the big screen, how is this happening? Holy shit, they're flying. Absolutely epic. Elliot's face, the emotion, again, going back to Rose's point of the acting, like the pure surprise of it all. It just emoted everything that all of us kids felt at the same time.
Absolutely.
The music.
Yeah, I mean, music. Yeah, that's
That's
the first time we hear the theme, I believe, if I remember correctly. Awesome. So. Pete, what do you got?
My favorite scene that makes me laugh is the one that you talked about earlier with the family when they're eating dinner and they're trying to figure out what did actually Elliot see, because they're trying to figure out the brothers throwing out suggestions, and Drew Barrymore's just repeating everything like a deformed kid. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, she's so good in that scene,
and it just escalates to one of my favorite lines of all time, which is, "It's nothing like that penis breath."
Yeah.
And the mom, even after that, reacts like she starts laughing, and then she tries to tries to get all like parental about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of my funniest scenes. I
want to say that line was used very popularly in the Escarcega household, if I remember correctly. And my Mama Escarcega was not happy about that.
Even before we knew what it meant to, have penis breath.
Yeah, yeah, right. I didn't even actually think about it. Like, if you actually break it down, it's like, whoa, that's terrible. But
why does it smell like penis?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I never asked the why, I guess. But okay, yeah. Okay, Rose, what do you got? Good transition there.
Gotta follow that.
How do you follow penis breath?
I think mine, because it's the iconic one and it's the one that I remember when I was little, is the one where Greta meets E.T. and they all start yelling. So I think
when she screams.
I think that one's epic, but also following with when Elliot comes back and E.T.'s talking and Greta's like, I taught him that, and she was like they start talking and they have a conversation, and she's like, I've been telling you, I taught him that. So seeing the dynamic between them, brother, sister, and And ET, I think it's just amazing. It's just so pure and human.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. That's a great scene. So for me, I guess kind of similar to Dominique, but it's the bike scene at the end, and they kind of set it up with, all of a sudden the three kids are like, hey, guys, go grab the other bikes, meet us, boom, boom, boom. And then that's when, they all these kids like just step up and they're like, this is our time to shine, and
do it.
Yeah. And they get on, and then they go, and then all of a sudden again, like that's when the music cue hits, and it's the dun 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 dun, and it's just like, again, it gives me chills, because it's like, to write that music, it doesn't even kind of make sense, but it's so visceral. It's so like it just gets you down to the hardcore, and for me, it just gives me chills when I hear that song, and then just the action that you're about to jump into. It just, again, I lost it during that point, in terms of like, I even made me tear up a little bit, because I'm just like, oh my goodness, like why is this so good? Like it's just crazy on how good that scene is. Again, the editing, how it's shot, and then again, these boys are going against men, and they have no fear. You know what I mean? Again, it's just so many different. It's underdogs. It's like we've been talking about, the story and the metaphors. It's so well done, and it gives you hope. But with the music that you believe, and it's like, this is our shot to be a hero, and I love that type of messaging. I love that type where it's, hey, not even adults with guns are going to stop us. Like, we're going to figure out a way to get this done, and of course they do. So I love that scene. So I'm gonna give Pete the point on this one, just because I do.
Jesus.
I love that scene, and spoiler alert, that's my favorite line in the movie. Is penis breath is my favorite line in that one. So I'm gonna give Pete the point on that one.
Oh man.
But you both, honestly, I'm not lying to you guys. Like, I can literally like flip a coin, and
I feel like I'm
this episode. It's a three-way tie, literally.
No, I mean, yeah, you guys are. It's a flip of the coin. Honestly, we do this podcast tomorrow, it's probably a different score. But okay, so it's a tie between Pete and Rose right now, 3-3, and Dominique's at 1. But you're not out of it, Dominique. So you close out strong. Okay, so our next is line, please. What's your favorite quote? Best underrated quote of the movie. So the two. So give your favorite quote, and then also like an underrated quote that's not necessarily like the most popular one. There's obviously a handful of most popular ones. Then does that make sense or no? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we started with
me last
on
time.
the last one, so we're gonna go with Pete on this one. So we'll do Pete, Dominique, Rose.
Man, this is I feel the least confident with this one. My favorite.
So be less complaining.
Yeah.
If you don't get
when I ultimately lose the episode, this is why. This is it right
this is
now.
it. This is that impact moment.
My favorite quote is, "I'll be right here." It's said a couple of times in the movie. I'll be right here when Elliot is
in the hospital
recovering.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be right here.
You should have said like that the first time, yeah.
And then E.T. says it to Elliot at the very end. I mean, when he touches him and he's like, I'll be right here.
With you.
It just makes me feel amazing. It just tugs at a lot of emotions, that line. So that's my favorite quote.
Totes.
My most underrated quote could be anything that Gertie says at any time in this movie. My favorite one is, and it's her delivery. It's not the line itself. It's
you're gonna say mine. I already know it.
Yeah, you're gonna say mine.
You're gonna say my line.
When he's like munching down on some food, and they're like trying to figure out stuff, and she's like, "Well, is he a pig? He sure eats like one." Most underrated.
No, that one's really good, dude. There's so many underrated ones in this one. Like, the more I watch it again, like I've watched it twice in the last.
And then like the next time, like she looks down and she goes, "I don't like his feet." It's just like her delivery.
That's the one that I was going to say.
I'm sorry, Rose.
So
her delivery is so classic.
So with that one too, well, I'll let Rose, because if that's her thing, I'll let her talk about it. But yeah, there's a story about that one too. Awesome. Okay, Dominique, what do you got?
So my favorite quote is Peter's underrated quote by Gertie. I love when she says, well, is he a pig? He sure eats like one. Perfect delivery. Love the way she says it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I still say it. And my favorite underrated quote, and don't judge me, but I love for my impression, but I love when Michael's like, you have absolute power in his Yoda voice. I love that. It's so good because his face like contorts and he does this whole like, yeah, it's just so great.
I mean, what's so great about this film too is obviously, you know, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas are you know, they're close friends, and there's so many cross references.
Oh
and,
yeah,
you know, in this film,
toys, and then
the
you
Yoda,
see the
Yoda creature,
Halloween. Yeah, all of it. Yeah, Greedo, and they're battling.
This is Greedo.
Yeah.
Dude, he's all over the place when he just basically tries to describe Earth. He's like, this is Greedo. Okay, and then this is this. These are cars.
There's a shark.
Like, oh, slow down, buddy. Awesome. Okay, Rose, what do you have?
For my favorite, I think is the one where he's trying to convince him to stay, and he's like, you could be happy here, I can take care of you, and we can grow up together. And that goes back to what I was talking about, because when we lose people, it's like we wanted you there, and I wanted there, and it's that moment where you realize I'm gonna have to let go because c'est la vie, but still I'm gonna let myself feel. So that's why
I dropped some French
like
in the middle of your quote there. You just dropped some French.
C'est la vie, yeah.
Well, little note on how to take the award is throw some French in your quotes.
And one that is underrated is the one that I think Michael says when they're looking. I don't know what they were looking, but he says like, we're all going to die. They're never gonna give me my license. Like he was always behind his license
because he's never driven forward before.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He always backs out of the.
I was going to say the feed one, but since we already talked about that one, there's another one that I really like.
So the feed one was kind of ad-libbed. So what she ultimately was talking about, Drew Barrymore, she saw like the wires and stuff connected to ET's feet, and so she was actually just commenting like, I don't like his feet, because she saw like wires and stuff, and again, she thinks it's a real creature. So it just kind of confused her. And that was just like a raw moment. And they obviously kept it in. And yeah, just brilliant filmmaking overall.
I think another great one too is from one of the friends when he's like, get it? Your ain't
it? Say it one more time, Dominique.
I said another great line is when one of the friends is like, where's your alien friend from, Elliot? Your anus. Get it? Your anus.
Shut up, Greg.
And then like the back and forth between Elliot and the other friend, they're like, what does it say? A
Sinus Supremus.
Yeah.
Supremus.
Yeah. And what does Elliot say?
Zero charisma.
Yeah, zero charisma.
Sinus Supremus.
Like, since when is zero charisma like such a insult? Yeah. I would get beat up on the playground if I yelled that out as a. You have zero charisma.
No personality.
That's how to lose all your fights, is throw out zero charisma.
That's why he was alienated, just like he was.
Yeah. All right. So I already mentioned mine. I mean, the penis breath one was my favorite one. I mean, E.T. Phone Home obviously is the most iconic, but
sure.
You know, the penis breath scene. There's so many great quotes in that, just like with Drew Barrymore repeating. So that was ultimately mine.
Alligators in the sewers.
Yeah, alligators in the sewers. Okay.
Oh, I think that's so funny right now.
So shoot, who do I want to vote for here? So my vote I'm gonna give to Pete on this one, because they in terms of impact, I'll be right here. Like it lines up with the theme of the film, and
did you hear my argument?
No, your argument was
Don't
good.
let him go.
Your argument was good, but Pete's quote was better. Your
More
argument was good.
better than I want you here. Let's grow up together. Bro, you have to let him go.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
Guys, it can be devastating here. So the next category is director's chair, and it's things that you would change about this film. So I think, yes, there's a general consensus, like, yes, in a lot of ways, there's a perfect film. There are a couple little things I noticed, again, just nitpicking. So these aren't like major changes, but just a couple things I'm like, okay, let's correct
Right.
it. So we started with Pete last time. So am I starting with Rose on this one?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with Rose. We'll start with Rose on this one. Rose, what do you have?
Okay, and my answer is always kind of the same. I actually don't like that much this category because there's things that I really don't know.
She doesn't
And
want
being
to
like, I love the movie. I wouldn't change it because it I don't know how you say that word. It met its purpose. So when a movie meets its purpose, it's perfect. That's what I think a good movie is. Because people are like, what does a good movie, what makes a good movie a good movie? And I think it's that. Meeting the purpose of why it was done. And I think this movie meets it like 100%. So there's not a thing I would change. If I would change something, I would have to watch it for more times because this is the first time I watch it since.
By the way, that's again a great credit to Spielberg. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I need to watch it 5 times for me to pick something out. So yeah,
exactly. So I need to watch it and watch it again.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Dominique, what do you have?
I'm with Rose. I don't know that I would change very much. The only thing that I guess there's just like theories on, but it's not really explained, is how he comes back to life. Like all of a sudden he just starts, his heart. And I don't know if it's because his people are coming back to get him, or
they do explain it. It's because the spaceship is on its way.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I never.
I always thought it was because he was immersed in cold, in ice, and so that sort of recharged.
I don't know. I never.
So his heart turns red when he's close to the ship.
To his kind, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
and so that's when his heart. Because and ET says it right after that, or Elliot says it. He's like, "Does that mean they're on its way?" And they're like, "Yes, they're on their way." And that's what brought him back to life, because basically it's separation anxiety, and
it's not the "I love you."
No. It's just they literally were on their way back. But basically, the communication device worked. So it's like the plan they put in place finally worked, and that's what got everything going. So
yes. So yeah, I mean, other than that, that was the only thing that I was always like, I think that's what it is, but I never knew if there was an actual real explanation for it.
Yeah. And there's something I learned on this one that I never understood, but I just literally learned it today. But Pete, go ahead and say what yours is.
Mine has to do with the re-release, when they re-released it and they changed. I wish that we can go back in time and destroy every copy of the re-release when they changed all the guns to like phones.
Oh, they did. They did, by the way.
They made like a whole edit, and they changed it because they were going through like a lot of gun violence at the time.
Yeah.
And I just didn't agree with it. And
no, but they actually agree with you, and they actually went through, and that version is not available anymore. I mean, you can buy it through eBay or whatever, but it's not like when you watch it now, it's the original.
Yeah, the one I saw, they had guns.
Yeah.
The only other thing that always bothered me was when Elliot gets scared the first time and he's in that cornfield or whatever, and he does like the and they do like 10 different like takes of him screaming at the same time. It always threw me off.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. The other thing, mine are minor too. The other thing is like, it's towards the end, and there's a car that comes up and it just says United States government. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, well, what department, And again, that's the 80s, right? Like, Now it's like there's 17,000 departments, so it's like you know exactly what department's involved. But when I saw it this time, I was like, whoa, okay, that's definitely outdated. And the other thing I did love though is that E.T. got drunk off Coors Banquet, which is a beer I love. and the other part I never actually understood this until like literally today when I rewatched it for the millionth time. I didn't realize Elliot was drunk in the classroom because E.T. was drinking, and they were already connected. I didn't realize the connection happened so soon. I knew
even the mom, when she gets called, she's like, he was intoxicated.
Yeah, it still didn't connect for me. And then like today I was, I don't know what made me think differently, but I was like, oh wait, he's drunk because E.T.'s drunk at home. Yeah, I never got that before. I don't know why.
And being a mom too, watching it now, I'm like, what the hell? Like kind of like what Pete said earlier about like her just totally checked out. And I mean, I would never ever think, and I guess maybe just with the times too, but to leave my 10-year-old son home alone all day long sick and just be like, all right.
No, I mean I used to do that, but I'd be watching
same with us.
And then
but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. I mean, I guess when I think about it, it's with the times, because I mean I would just never do that. Would you? I mean, Pete, would you leave your kid home now?
No.
Hell no. Yeah.
100% no.
What?
1,000 times no.
But my complaint was she was like no TV all day, and it's like, what the fuck do you think I'm gonna do all day? Like I'm gonna watch Sesame Street all day.
Sure.
Because that's what I would do. So like when I'd stay home sick, and I wasn't sick a lot, but I looked forward to watching Sesame Street and then Mr. Rogers, and then I don't, typically I'd probably pass out.
Reading Rainbow.
I didn't watch that a lot, but yeah, but that's what I'd look forward to when I was sick, was like, ooh, I get to watch, the full Sesame Street and all that today. And so, yeah, when she said like no TV today, I'm like, well, he's probably going to do worse stuff if you take away TV. You know what I mean? Like TV at least keeps him on the couch, but yeah. So mine, I had a small thing, and I noticed it literally this last time I watched it today. And so when they do the first time he flies, they show the scene with him flying with the moon, right? The Emblem Entertainment sign that's right behind Pete and Rose. So the music, the crescendo of the music happens when it's on Elliot's face, but when I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, why isn't that the crescendo? Because that's the shot, right? That's the best shot in the film. And it's like, why isn't that the dun 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 dun? Like, again, I just watched it today, and that was my thought. Maybe they did that and it didn't work out in editing, but just sitting there, I was just like, that's the perfect shot to put the crescendo of the music on. I don't know. Again, I'm spitballing
I think if you were competing for points, you would have been kicked out of this thing for questioning John Williams' judgment on where his music should go.
Well, no, that would be Spielberg in the editing.
The audacity.
That'd be, because you can just rearrange the shots. The composition's perfect. Because I thought about it too, because I didn't want to just like make a hyper aggressive comment. But when I looked at it, it was a close up of Elliot. It was that shot, then a close up again of Elliot. You could have rearranged those shots, and then the shots after that is just him kind of going into the forest. You could have rearranged the shots, but you would have hit the mark on the best shot in the entire movie, the classic shot of the movie, and then that's the crescendo of the music. I mean, I don't know, like why not hit a grand slam? But hey,
you're insane.
I mean, Spielberg's made a little bit more money than I have, so maybe he knows what he's doing, but.
Sure.
That was the only thing. Again, I kind of agree with the general premise. There's not a ton I would do with this, but okay. So I'm going to award the point to Pete on this one. I think he
almighty in heaven.
The best on this one. It was rough overall.
Suck episode.
Yeah, look, guys, everybody hates me on this episode, so it's fine. Every time I do the points things. Okay, so last category. And we'll wrap this up, but it's because of Drew Barrymore and she crushed in this one. We wanted to honor her and give her top 5 best Drew Barrymore movies of all time.
You're gonna laugh at mine.
And so, who started last time? Pete, or are we on Dominique? I feel like Dominique's supposed to start.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with we're gonna start with Dominique on this one. Dominique, what's your top 5 best Drew Barrymore movies?
Top 5 best Drew Barrymore movies. Coming in at number 5, Charlie's Angels. Number 4, Never Been Kissed. Number 3, 50 First Dates.
Nice.
Number 2, The Wedding Singer, Julia Gulia. And number 1, her breakout role, E.T.
Nice. Very good list. Very good list.
I'm not Josie Grossi anymore.
Pete Dog, what do you have?
Number 5 for me is Wayne's World 2. She played Jurgen and Kiergan from the Fjorgen Fjords.
God, I love the Wayne's World movies, and I totally forgot she was in that.
So funny. It was such a small thing too.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me was Wedding Singer, because she was just
number 4.
She was almost because she was almost reintroduced at that point, and she was still just like this.
No, she was reintroduced. Not even
She was so cute.
And she was just very cute, and but it wasn't. She didn't have the same impact as she did as my number 3, which was 50 First Dates. Correct. I thought she was absolutely adorable in that movie, and I thought she crushed it. And it's a fantastic film. Number 2 for me is E.T., because she wasn't like a huge role.
Right.
Number 1, Fever Pitch. Fever Pitch is like the best movie.
What the heck?
Ever.
Yeah, I love Fever Pitch.
She plays an amazing role.
Interesting. Rose, what do you got? What do you have?
Okay, so for me, in number 5 comes music and lyrics, because I love Hugh Grant and I love music. So
it's a good one.
I love her in that movie. Then in 4 comes Ever After.
Yeah.
Because it's so romantic.
That was good.
That one's good. That one's actually good. I actually like that one.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
Then in 3rd, Wedding Singer. Then 2nd, E.T. And 1st, I agree with you. Fever Pitch. I think Jim Fallon, that one, and her, and the dynamic. No, that movie is one of my favorites. I can watch and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So my list is pretty similar. I just have my number 5 is different from everybody else, but number 5 is blended. Because we're blending.
I never saw that movie.
I never saw it either.
I love that.
Oh my God, you have to watch it.
It's Adam Sandler. It's Drew Barrymore. It's Africa. You got Terry Crews as it's just so good. It's got so many. It's just such an underrated film. It didn't do very well, but I loved it. It's got so many funny.
Go to a gas station. No, it's amazing.
Terry Crews is so good in it. But I love her in it too. My number 4, Fever Pitch, like you guys. I really loved her in that film. I watch that film again once every year at least. Number 3, 50 First Dates, like you guys mentioned. I think she's excellent in that. Number 2, E.T., for all the reasons we're talking about. That's her breakout role, and it is literally one of her best acting roles because it's just so raw and real. And then number 1, Pete said it is her re-breakout role, but that's why I put it number 1. It's The Wedding Singer, and it basically changed her career because that's what made her a rom-com actress. And then after this, she did all the other films that you guys mentioned. But The Wedding Singer, she actually had to sell herself. If you know the background of it, she had to sell herself to other people. She had gone through her drug phase. She had gone through all the rehab, all that stuff. And nobody thought of her like as that rom-com actress, even though she was beautiful. But she had to really sell herself like, no, I can do this role. I can do this role. I want this role. And different film. She was competing 50 First Dates. She had bought the rights to it. But in Wedding Singer, she wanted to get that role so bad. Like she reached out to Adam Sandler and ultimately she won the role. And again, her life changed after that. That's when she ultimately became a producer after that. And so to me, Wedding Singer is the most historical film in her career. So yeah. So I'm going to give Rose the point on this one just because I like her diversity on the roles, but it doesn't matter because Pete is still the winner of this film.
Let me tiebreak. Let me give you one. The best performance of
you don't need a tiebreaker because you didn't tie, but
I'm tied. Sorry, darling.
That's not how tiebreakers work. You can just activate a tiebreaker when you're losing.
Okay. No,
Paul, good tactic though, by the way. Great tactic.
That's a Dominique right there.
Yeah, that's a Dominique.
I do what you gotta do.
Give me your answer to the best performance of a child actor, besides E.T.
Trying to get extra credit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
What? So what's your answer?
What is it, Rose? I'm dying.
Oh, one of the best child actor scenes ever, not including E.T. because we know E.T. We already talked about it in whichever movie.
Are you asking us or are you gonna tell us? Pete and
no,
I have already
no.
done a list.
I'm asking.
Oh,
Pete.
well, my number one child performance. Pete, do you remember what mine was?
Forget. I mean, Freddie Highmore's up there for.
Oh, no, it's Macaulay Culkin. Pete and I both put.
Oh,
Macaulay
right,
Culkin home
Macaulay
alone.
Culkin.
Yeah.
For me, it's Leonardo DiCaprio, and who stole Gilbert's.
Yeah. So Pete actually had that on his list. He's 19. So
he's actually 19.
He's actually ineligible for the award.
He was going to be like my number 1 or 2 because
He was so good in that.
But he was.
That movie.
But we almost 20.
We picked Macaulay Culkin Home Alone because nobody has ever carried. No child has ever carried a franchise, and Macaulay Culkin. Not only, I mean, his performance.
Bobby Brown.
Yeah, but Macaulay Culkin, the greatest role ever, both impact and. Well, awesome. So,
okay, I won.
So Pete, do you have a couple suggestions for next couple episodes, maybe for this group?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll put it up and you guys can vote because I've got 2 in mind that I really want to do with you guys. One is a movie that I want to review really bad. It's big.
Oh yeah, we talked about that one. Yeah.
And then the other one is The Goonies. I want to watch The Goonies and review that one too. So if you guys have any preference on either one of those.
I would be more down for Goonies just because I know it better. I love Big, but I'm way more familiar with Goonies.
What happened to Back to the Future? That one.
They kicked. I know. That's
yeah, we already did Back to the Future. Unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry.
Did it air?
No, it hasn't aired yet.
That hurt.
I know. I love Back to the Future, man. It's my jam.
Yeah.
Okay, the 2 Goonies.
So, thank you, Pete. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Rose, for joining us here on the ET podcast.
Thanks for having me. Always a blast.
Yeah, this always a blast, guys. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify. If you haven't checked us out there already, also on YouTube. That's probably where you're watching this as well. But please like, subscribe, comment, the whole 9. We need all your support and appreciate that. If you guys have ideas for movies that you want us to review, we're open to that as well. Please do.
Yeah.
And till next time, guys, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.